and I can record is to have a meeting open.
Okay.
So that's why I do that. Okay, let's see. We're going to close that. All right, so that's recording. And we need to get on the right page. We are going to start with our solving equations. To start with, if I have 2x plus 9 equals 5x, what do we call that 2 and that 5? They're my, what's the number that sits with the variable? Coefficient. And the 9 is called the constant, right? The coefficient is like co-ed, right? It's got both the number and the variable, okay? So the coefficient always has the variable. The constant, there's no variable. It won't vary. It has to remain the same. So it has to remain constant, okay? I'm going to get my like terms together. This time they're on separate sides of the equal sign, right? This is over here on the left side. This is on the right side. So I can't just put them together. Like if I had over here, I had 2x plus 5x equals 9. I could put these together and there would just be 7x, right? But they're on the same side and those are not. So I have to take it off of one side by its opposite operation. So that's a positive 2x. I'm going to cancel it off of there with a negative 2x, right? And whatever I do on one side, I know you guys heard that 1,000 plus 2 more times, right? Whatever you do on one side, you got to do on the other. So that's canceled, and I get that 9 is equal to 3x. 3x means 3 times x. So I have to divide by 3, and x is equal to 3. Okay? There's my solution. When I want to test it, I'm going to say 2 plus 9, 5. And I'm going to put that 3 in and see. So I'm going to say 2 times 3 is equal to 9 plus 5 times 3. I got to come out with a true statement because that's an equation. That's what an equation is. It's a true statement. So 6 plus 9 equals 15, and 15 equals 15. And through that method, I can turn my test in knowing that I have the problem right. I have the right answer, right? And don't forget, when you're on a multiple choice test, if you have A, B, C, and D, you've got the option of working backwards, right? Plug it in. Maybe you're going to have to plug in 2 or 3 different numbers to come up with the right answer, but if you plug your answers into the problem, then you're going to get the right answer. Okay. I'm going to erase this. No. So I don't see, when we're doing class, we don't work the problems out, or how do you guys learn?
Oh, I usually do. Yeah,
I usually do.
I just forgot my binder because I was trying to rush to key.
All right. Working the problems out, and that's one of the things I tell my kids all day long. Math is so different from every other class. It's the easiest class that you can take, but it's so different because it's not something you learn, it's something you actually just do, right? You're doing math. You're not learning it. All right, so I'm going to talk about 6 minus x equals 2x plus 9. Who am I going to put together first? No, that's 6 minus x. That's kind of my bad handwriting, but that's a 6. What? Minus an x. So I usually try to remember through a little saying, don't call me after midnight. This is with parentheses. I have to distribute. Call me means that I have to collect. Like terms, multiply and divide, and add, subtract, last. Okay, so on this one, do I have any parentheses that I'm going to need to distribute? No, so I'm going to start out with collecting my like terms. Like terms have to have the same exact variable, right? So up here, who are my like terms? There you go. I have a minus 1x and a positive 2x, and I got to get them together. They're not on the same side, so I can't put them together. But to collect my like terms, I'm going to come here and I'm going to say plus 1x and plus 1x, and I got 6 equals 3x plus 9. 2 steps. I'm at the add, subtract, then multiply or divide steps. Now, I got to subtract the constant because I've already taken care of the coefficients. So I'm going to subtract that constant, and I get a negative 3 is equal to 3x. Dividing by that 3, and x is equal to a negative 1. I'm going to try problem. There is a, where I can clear the screen, isn't there? No, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. That's what I wanted. All right. 8x minus the sum of 3x and 2 is equal to 3x minus 10. What number is up there that we've got to know but will never be written? Right here I have a 1, right? So I have to distribute. I have those parentheses, and this time I have to distribute that negative 1. So I wink and a smile, hit everything in that parentheses, yes? So I wink first, I'm going to bring down my 8x. Negative 1 times 3x is minus 3x. Negative 1 times the 2 is a minus 2. 3x minus 10. Okay? Now, just on this side over here, who's my like terms? Yeah. So because they're on the same side, can't do with that with this 3x, but these two, they're both on the same side of that equal sign. So I can just put them together. So an 8x minus a 3x gives me a, so 5x minus 2 equals 3x minus 10. What am I going to hit next? Still got some like terms, but they're no longer on the same side. Yeah, 5x and 3x. Got to put them together. I only want one x term up here so I can solve for that x. So since they're on different sides, that's a positive 3x. So I'm going to cancel it off there with a negative 3x. under my like terms. I'm not going to put it up under the 2. I can't put 2 and 3 together because they're not like terms. So that gives me 2x minus 2 equals, what's still over there? Right? So here's my 2 steps. I got to add that -2 so I get it over there with the 10. And then I got to divide by this +2. Adding 2 and 2x is equal to -8. And dividing by 2 and x is equal to -4. I promise, guys, one of the things, I mean, you guys got the internet today, and you got every resource. Here's a couple of things you should probably write down. They're very helpful websites. Desmos is a great graphing calculator online, and Wolfram Alpha is a problem solver that you can type the problem in. It'll break it all down, so it'll help you when you're doing your homework. But one thing you guys don't seem to do anymore that I had in my first night. First night we swapped numbers with everybody. And we set up a study night because it took us very short time to realize the best way to learn math was to just discuss it. So I could be doing it with some other people. Sitting at my kitchen table, I'm going to get a few things down. I'm going to get a few things stuck in my head. But if I'm working with a partner, if I'm working with a couple other people, especially if I can teach them how to do a couple of the problems, man, that's going to skyrocket my test grade in a major way. Working together, getting up a study group. Do you guys do study groups anymore? Yeah? Yeah. I'm not kidding. We would all be in the doorway before we're walking out, giving out our numbers so that we could set up study groups. That was better than any internet. All right, let's try your most favorite problems. Get involved with it. Work it with me. I promise you. Getting the wrong answer takes you so much farther than just nothing, right? I had so many students wait until I get all done and then they try to write it all down. All right, so what we're going to do to use to deal with our fractions, we're just going to get rid of them. Okay, does that sound like good news? We're just going to get rid of the fractions. We're going to look at the denominators. And on this one, I only got one. But we're going to look at those denominators and we're going to get that least common denominator. This time it's just 3, right? Because that's the only one I got. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this whole thing up. What did I do? Ooh. And then I'm going to put that 3 out here. Okay? I'm going to distribute that 3, and that's going to make all those fractions just gone. So when I'm multiplying a whole number times a fraction, I multiply by the top, divide by the bottom, right? So right here, 3 times 1 is, and divided by 3 is, so 3 times 1/3 x turns into 1x. That fraction's gone. Every term up here, 3 times 2 is, minus 3 times 2 again is 6, divided by 3 is 2, right? So I just wrote an equivalent equation and I don't have any fractions to deal with. Is that better? Or do you want to work with the fractions? Or would you rather not do it at all? Alright. Like terms, opposite sides of that equal sign, so I've got to cancel it off of one side and move it to the other. 3 times x equals 6. Divide by that 3. And x equals 2. All right, let's look at 35. What do you think our least common denominator is going to be? We got 2's and we got 3's, right? So if I was counting by 2's, I'd have 2, 4, 6. If I was counting by 3's, I'd have 3, 6. And I'm looking for that smallest number they both go in, right? All right, so let's try. I have 2/3. Six times 2. 12 divided by 3. So I have 4p. 2/3 p is gone. It's now 4p. Okay. 6 times 1 divided by 2. 6 times 1 divided by 3. Okay, so I have an equivalent equation. It's the same exact equation, but now I don't have any fractions. So I'm going to subtract that 3p, and I've got p is equal to 2. Okay? In the end, it comes out pretty nice. On 38, that's a 0.9. 0.9 is 9, what? Okay, how many decimal spaces is it back? 1. So that's 1 0. What number has 1 0? Tens. That's 9 tenths. If it's 2 spaces back, what has 2 zeros? 100. So if I was like 38, that would be 38 hundredths, right? If it was 3, that would be 385 thousandths, right? So this is just one space back. Oh my gosh, y'all. I could get stoned off of that one. All right. Not that I would. Anyway. Whatever, however many spaces back. Okay? 3 tenths, 38 hundredths, 385 thousandths. So this is 9 tenths, 1 whole, and a T. So if I were to be looking for the LCD on that one, it would be 10, right? 10 times 9 tenths is going to be 9t equals 10 equals 10t. Okay? Now, because you're probably working on a calculator, maybe you don't even want to do it with the decimals. Maybe you just rather leave the decimals in there. That's fine. Maybe you would just rather leave the fractions in there. That's fine. This method is not something you have to do to solve the problem.
It's easy.
I think it's easier to get rid of it, don't you? Okay. Well, that's what we've been doing. That's why we got we went from this one to that, okay? I'm just saying it's not something that you have to do. Let's try this, and then we'll move on to the next. 5/8. P plus 3 minus 2. 1/4. 2p minus 3. Alright, where are my denominators? Who are my denominators in this one? 16, 4, and 8. So if I was counting by 4, 8, and 16, 16 would be my least common because 8 goes into 16, 16 goes into 16, and 4 does. So I'm going to take this whole thing and I'm going to wrap it up and I'm putting a 16 out there. Now, here's where this gets confusing because all of this right here is just one term. There's your second term. There's your third term. And there's your fourth term. Okay? I am not going to multiply by this p plus 3 or this 2p minus 3 because all of this here is just one term. So when I multiply by the 5/8, I've done the whole thing. So 16 times 5. If I have 16 nickels, 8 divided by 8. So that 5/8 turns into a 10 times p plus 3. Minus, might not be a fraction, but you still got to multiply by every term up there. So 16 times 2 equals, all right, multiply by the top and divide by that bottom. 16 times 1 divided by 4. So I got 4 times 2p minus 3. Last one. What happens when I multiply 11 times 16 and divide by 16? Just ends up being, that's a 1, right? So that just ends up being 11. All right, so now we're over here. We got parentheses, so we're going to distribute. Then we're going to collect like terms. Then we're going to do any multiplying and dividing. And last we add or subtract. So distribute. Wink and a smile. 10 times p and 10 times 3. NP plus, all right, what about over here? Wink and a smile. 4 times 2p and 4 times 3 gives me 8p minus 12 plus, all right, what about 30 and 32? 30 minus 32. So I've got 10p minus 2, 8p I'm down by 12 and I score 11. All right. I'm going to subtract. Who do I got to get rid of now? Who do I need to put together? 8p. I could subtract the 10p. It doesn't matter. I think it's easier to do the 8p because everything's going to stay positive, right? But do know that you could do either one. So I'm going to say minus the 8p. And that's going to give me 2 minus 2 equals, all right, adding that 2 to both sides. And 2 times p equals 1. And right there is my answer. B equals 1/2. Okay? 5:30 to 6:45, right? We're doing good. All right, let's talk about, I want to get in. How many solutions? If you have 5x plus 3 is equal to 2x minus 8, and your coefficients on both sides are different, 5 and 2, your coefficients are different, then you will have one solution. Only one number in the world is going to make that a true statement. Okay? However, what if you had 5x plus 3 equals 5x minus 8? Now this time my coefficients are the same. My constants are different. There is no way I can multiply both by 5 and then do something different, and it's going to come out true. If I did 5 times 2, I'd have 10 on both sides, right? And this would be 10 plus 3 and 10 minus 8. Is there any way for that to be true? If my coefficients are the same but my constants are different, my answer is going to be no solution. Okay? So most times you're going to have one solution, just one number. Sometimes you'll get a no solution. But sometimes everybody's the same. 5x plus 3 equals 5x plus 3. Everybody's the same. And you're going to have an infinite number of solutions or all real. Okay? Infinite number of solutions or all real. I promise you on your first Unit 1 test, one of these is going to show up. Okay? All right, let's go to, we're not going to talk about this. Now these are equations to solve. They're just not giving me any numbers. So I can't do the actual math, but I can still do the same steps. On 73, I have ax minus b equals c. That's a two-step equation. That's the same thing as 5x plus 4 is equal to, we'll say 9. What would be my first step on 5x plus 4 equals 9? What would I do to get started? Minus 4. Get rid of that constant, right? Okay. Well, that is that. So who over here is that 4? The b. So my first step is to get rid of that b, right? I'm trying to get this x by itself. So that makes b the constant and a the coefficient. I add, subtract, or multiply, or divide. On this one, because it's a negative b, I need a positive b. It cancels it from over here, and I have a times x equals c plus b. I just can't do the math. Over here, I could say minus 4 And 5 times x equals 5 because I have numbers and I can do the math. I just can't do the math, so I got to leave the variables in place. I still need this x by itself. It's being multiplied by a. There you go. Gone. And x is equal to, probably write it in alphabetical order, b plus c equals a. Okay? On number 75, what's going to be my least common denominator on 75, guys? What are my denominators? A and B. So I don't know what, but how would I get it? If I have x over A plus x over B, my LCD is going to be AB, right? Just multiply them together. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing I was doing before with any fractions. And I'm going to wrap it all in a parentheses and multiply by AB. Okay, so my first one, I have XAB, X times AB divided by A. Multiply by the top and divide by the bottom. What cancels here?
A.
So XB, right? All right, what about over here? I'm going to have XAB over B. The B is going to cancel, that's gone. So now I have XA equals ABC. Gotta get everybody. What is X now? Since it shows up in more than one, that's a common factor, right? Common factor. So I'm going to divide out that X. I'm going to put the X outside of the parentheses and what's left inside of the parentheses. The A and the B. Equals ABC. So I have X times A plus B equals A, B, C. I need that X alone. So who do I need to divide by? Right? I need X by itself. X is multiplying times the A plus B, so I'm going to divide by the A plus B. A times B times C divided by A plus B. Sure. I mean, guys, if you're talking to me, you're showing, I mean, we'll do, I don't care how many times we do the same problem, I don't care how many times. If you're in there and you're talking to me about it and you want to go over it again, I'm glad to, okay? As a matter of fact, I'd love that. If we just make sure, don't let me move on when you're like, oh, what she doing? Right? Does that help? When you sit there, I don't know what she's doing on. That don't work, does it? And you walk out still saying, I don't know what she's doing. And I promise you, if you're talking to me and answering, even if you answer the wrong thing every single, it makes that hour go by a lot faster. I promise you. All right, let's try our last set of problems. These are the same thing. Same problems. I've got to get a certain letter alone. There we go. I got to get some letter that they give me. I got to get it by itself. I'm going to use the same exact steps that I used for solving any equation. If they're multiplying, I'm dividing. If they're adding, I'm subtracting, right? I'm going to use that same business. We talk about finance. The amount is equal to the principal times 1 plus rate times time. I need to find out what rate is. I need all of this stuff on one side, and I need the R by itself over here. That R is sitting inside of some parentheses. So there's only one way to get rid of those parentheses. What do I do to get rid of parentheses? There you go. So I'm going to wink and smile here. And I've got amount is equal to P times 1 is P plus P times R, PRT. Now it's a little bit backwards, but I promise you this is your two-step, right? There's R that I got to get alone, so that's my variable. That makes these guys the coefficient, and this guy is the constant. So I'm going to get rid of that constant first. I'm going to say minus P. So A minus P equals P times R times T. What do I need to make go away? Oh, the PT. And I'm just multiplying there, right? So if they're multiplying by P and T, I can divide by P and T. And that cancels that, and that cancels that. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other. And there's my answer. All I needed was that R by itself. Okay? All right, guys. I'm going to let you go early tonight. I'll post this. And again, if there will always be what you call open, a Teams open. As long as this technology doesn't mess with my head, there will always be a Teams meeting open so that I can. If you are in quarantine or there is some other reason why you cannot show up for class, join through Teams if you can. Okay? Join online. It's not going to give you attendance. You'll still be marked as absent. But if it's COVID, you're excused. I'm not saying it won't be an excuse, but then you don't miss the class, right? You don't miss the notes. Yes? All right, guys. Have a great one. Be safe. And I'm going to stop recording.